and then just set that up and see.
There we go. Yeah, we're ready to go.
Oh, that's great. Okay, folk, thank you for that, and thank you, Wayne, for the arrangements. Welcome to our first meeting of the new triennium. And it's great to get everybody here. Thank you also for the time given me just to have a general introduction before we started this meeting. But we're now live streaming. It's the formal meeting of the 8th of December. And we have the agenda pretty much in front of us in a way that's good. I just wanted to note up front, Peter, Saskia, I have absolutely enjoyed getting ready for this meeting. The papers, for some reason, I don't know what it was, perhaps I'm drinking different Kool-Aid or something, but were absolutely superb. And they give a basis for a good discussion today. And I'm deeply grateful for the work that you guys have done. We don't have any apologies, Saskia, at this stage. No? That's fine. That's great. We don't have any public forum. Right. So that gets us to 3, which is declarations of interest. Are there any interests you need to note? I need to, Wayne, give you an updated one. I go out of business on the 13th of October 2025 when the elections happen, because I never quite know who's going to affirm me. I do know a fair number of what is on my list, but it's not yet complete. So just when that comes through, I'll let you know. But at this stage, none of them of my either existing appointments or impending ones in any way affect, I think, my right here. However, having said that, I just would like to note that in the PX, we have a minor matter that has gone to MB for determination litigation report. My youngest son works for the MB determination unit, and I have confirmed that he has nothing to do with the particular matter which we'll deal with under PX. I would note for completeness, he did receive and affirm the actual whatever you call a request for determination, but he has no ongoing part to play with that particular determination. So if I would like to note that specifically. But this thing always getting you better. Okay, we're there. Can we move on to the reports then, Saskia, so we could deal with the long-term plan? This is really good because I think, as you said, it's a continuation of the initial work we had at our meeting prior to the end of training, and so it's great to see it come back in this formalised way. I think in the PX we also have a risk register, which is superb. The other thing is I note that if I'm correct, Wayne, we have Yvonne, our auditor, on board for this paper, which is tremendous. Yvonne, thank you for being here as well. I presume zooming in from Christchurch. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. As Bruce said, just like to acknowledge both Yvonne and Monique who are joining us here today. We have had conversations with Audit New Zealand around the long-term plan and had early engagement with them, which is fantastic. So I'll just say a few words then, hand it over to Yvonne and Monique if you want to say anything. You may not wish to, or the Audit of Risk Committee may have questions, obviously, but we're at early stages at the moment. So you have in front of you a bit of an update paper on where we are with the long-term plan. So if you cast your minds back to the workshop we had for the end of the triennium, we are taking a bit more of a focused approach in terms of work streams this time round, and involving our staff early and across the board. So we've got a mix of across the organisation, and also we're having regular updates with the full leadership group committee. We just had one of those last week, and a few quite critical things have already happened. So obviously we've set up those work streams. We've had a one-on-one session with our councillors, so Paul, that session. We have had sessions with 2 of our community boards so far. The other 2 are this week, just in terms of what it is, and then we'll be going back to the community in the new year with a bit of a strategy session about what they want to achieve for their particular boards. We are also doing quite a critical input into this LTP is a rating review. So councillors had a workshop with Stephen Halliwell at the last meeting, or the last workshop day, and we have a paper going to the next council meeting next week, just to really formally kick that off. So that's truly in hand, and the goal with that is to be out consultation next June. What we have in front of you is just a bit of a table of key actions. What the team will do for our next meeting in February is flesh that out a wee bit and put it in an easier to digest diagram form, sort of similar to what we've done in previous years, but you can see sort of from that table sort of the key timelines. What we want to do this time round, and definitely is a key focus of mine, is not to be writing a consultation document over the Christmas break and having the mayor having to review it on her Christmas holiday, is that we bring that forward and essentially have that pretty much done before we close for Christmas. And that has been well and truly with the mayor, and she's had time to review it. Then we just do sort of minor edits in the new year. That will be 2027, and that we will take everything to the January 2027 council meeting, and that will be the full draft LTP as well as the consultation document. So the goal is to be done before Christmas. I have great confidence that we will this time round. Our big challenge last LTP was a district-wide funding and the process around that. So we started a bit late, and that did really truncate us. So fingers crossed it's a wee bit less stressful for staff all round and elected members. And your note in my paper is the chair said we are now going to bring LTP risks to this meeting, but just two that I just wanted to point out. What risk sort of key issues is obviously the Three Waters Joint Council Controlled Organisation. We do not know yet what parts CODC Inc. will still need to do in Three Waters come 1 July 2027. We can make a guess that there will be still stuff that this council may need to do, take water billing, for example, on charge to the entity. The timeframes around the establishment of that joint entity and what it means in terms of finances and tasks is still for us, will be running parallel to the development of the LTP. So they have worked really hard in the process of getting the program director and independent chair on board. Final interviews this side of Christmas. And then obviously it'd be quite good if the CCO worked with some pace to get a bit of an understanding as to what that looks like, because it's not only us, it's obviously Gore and Clutha LTPs will be impacted as well. So we'll just keep a close eye on that develops. And the other thing in discussion with Monique and Yvonne, they have obviously all councils this LTP to audit. So what initial conversation with them both was essentially we get everything to them end of January. That Audit New Zealand will need pretty much all of February and March to audit, given all the other councils as well. Just in previous to some previous years, this does put a lot of pressure obviously on our engagement cycle and the hearings and what have you. So I've indicated in the paper here that we will look to use AI again to help manage that and try to really with the analysis of the submissions, that does sort of truncate that, but we'll put a process in place to mitigate the risk there. So that's my review. Yvonne, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Saxia. Hello, everyone. Kia ora koutou. Obviously, this is very early stage. I think management has prepared a process and really appreciate the early engagement as well. The heads up is really helpful. We can consider into our resourcing for long-term plan. Obviously, it's still a year away, but we will probably start off the resourcing early part of the next year or towards to May and June, that we can discuss with management and to align with their timeline. To have the draft before Christmas is definitely really, really helpful. That give us a lot more space, and in January and February they can kick off the audit. That would be very helpful. There's some couple points I think I want to just to highlight is that obviously there's a lot of discussion around the water service strategy, whether that's need to be audited or not, and that although the legislation does not request the audit to audit the water service strategy as a standalone audit opinion, that the auditor for the long-term plan may choose to scope in based on the materiality and the qualitativity materiality as well. So that we are still waiting for the Office of Auditor General's guidance. So there is a perhaps a evolving parts that we will be keep the management informed as soon as the guidance comes out. There may impact on the scope of the long-term plan. Yeah, otherwise, I think it's a really good start that we're keen to work with management and to keep up this and hopefully a smooth long-term plan audit ahead for 2027. Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. Thank you, Saskia. I note also the particular request of the committee is under discussion on page 10, which is that we've been asked as a committee to pick up oversight, and there are 4 bullet points which add that out. And I do suspect that we should pass a short motion as to whether we're game for that or not. I hope we are, but we'll see how we go. Brilliant, folk. Do we have questions or comments for Saskia or indeed Yvonne? Yes, Tamar.
Yeah, good morning, Yvonne. Thank you for joining us this morning. I just wondered, given that audit has already indicated that it'll be challenging to complete that document before the end of March 2027, what support can we expect from audit or indeed the Office of the Auditor General around timeframes and flexibility or additional resourcing?
In terms of the end of March, that is our usual kind of expected timeline for most of the consultation document audit to be completed. There's a very rare case for some council may goes out to April. Obviously for CODC last year was deferred. We don't really expect council will be granted another extension for the 2027 long-term plan at this stage. Obviously, things might happen, but we usually commit to the end of March for most of our long-term plan, and that will be supported by our resourcing board. I think they will soon kick out next year.
And that's fine, and we're not looking to defer anything. I just note that it says already that you couldn't guarantee that the audit of the consultation document would be completed by March. If you're indicating that already and we're a year out plus, what will Audit New Zealand be doing to ensure that you can meet the timeframes that you would usually be meeting?
I'm not sure that come from, but as I said, the end of March is our expected timeline for most of the long-term plan consultation document, and that is the aim for our resourcing board to work around and making sure these happening. We have early adoption for the consultation document. Usually happen in the middle of February, but the end of March is the second batch that we will be adopting the CD document. There's a very rare case to flow on to April.
I wonder, Yvonne, admittedly, there are words that you cannot guarantee whether that was indeed whether that's the word used. Not.
No, sorry, Yvonne, that was apologies. That was probably me. I probably meant to write cannot guarantee it would happen before end of February and it'll be end of March. So apologies, Yvonne. That was not right on a very good sentence there.
I think the question that I to sort of have a not to put you under too much pressure, Yvonne, but in terms of obviously resourcing. We've got 2 things actually, and I can't help but get also thinking about the 25-26 annual audit, dare I say it, which I would like to, talking internally here, I'd like to see on a project plan, we'll need to get out of the way quickly. I'm conscious that, you'll want to meet the 31 October deadline, etc. But that becomes part of our resourcing needs as well into the CELTP. Yvonne, I'm also conscious that you guys are going through, I think, a reasonably public restructuring at the moment as well. When do you anticipate at this point you knowing what your resourcing situation is going to be like?
For the 2026 annual audits, we have already started to plan for the resourcing board. We, in terms of the initiative around bring work forward, a lot more work can be done before year end. So we have already started to plan for that. And obviously, as you said, to achieve the statutory deadline is our common goal. Obviously, things happen. Sometimes we cannot, for certain reasons. But at the first instance, our resourcing board will be planned for all the council to achieve their statutory deadline for 2026 annual audit. And soon after, we will start the 2027 long-term plan audit resourcing planning. If there's a chance, we can bring the consulting document audit a bit earlier, starting in January. I actually did have a council started their consulting document audit before Christmas last time around. So all these things are moving parts we can discuss with management when the time comes, and making sure we're all on the same page and comfortable with the timeline that we planned for.
Yvonne, I'm very appreciative of those comments. I don't appreciate experienced it myself. We meet again in February. Date's slightly movable. We'll get back to that. Somebody will find a date for that. It would be good, for instance, at that February meeting, mid-February, for us to resourcing for the annual audit. But is there any chance you would be able to tell us that you've got the resourcing in place for 27 at that February meeting?
I can't guarantee that. Obviously, we're going to close our office soon. I think our team is working on the 26J at the moment. Whether or not when we come back February, we can, I will need to find out.
Look, I'd like to, formation point, we could just check with Yvonne. I would like the formal arrangements for the annual audit at the February meeting. That would be a logical time to have that, number one. Number two, we can have a date on when you think, a date when we can credibly receive the resourcing for the LTP audit. That would be, I presume you're going to go through interim work, the self-assessment, all that sort of drama that occurs through an LTP audit, which will be happening in 2026. So I think it's only logical that, and I'm comfortable if it's that latter meeting and perhaps Q2 of next year, but I'd be expecting the arrangements from the office to come out at about that stage the following year. Otherwise, we are struggling to keep this within our project plan. We are trying to be very committed with the project plan. The other thing which is the chair's report, Tamara, is we also need an auditor for our water company, and quite frankly, we need to engage with that person really soon. I can talk more about that later on. Yvonne, thank you for that. I appreciate, we're asking the crystal ball gaze right at the moment, but I am also keen that we try and nail down some specifics about when we find it. Saskia, I think there's a few more things here though that are more than just the audit. So I wonder whether I'm going to ask some questions, but Curtis, Sarah, Grace, you got other questions you'd like to ask about the paper more generally?
I just had a question around the joint CCR, and you talked some functions may stay with council initially.
Yep.
How will that affect your long-term plan?
So what that in terms of our long-term plan, let's just take water billing because we're the only council that does that. So if the decision was made that staff member sits within my team, what we would just have to do within the LTP is we'd have to budget the IS IT resourcing within our books, and then what we would do is an on charge. So that's how it would impact us. If CODST is still carrying out some of the services, we'll have to pay for them, but we will get the income back. So we just have to
specifically the timeline for knowing what you're still responsible for.
Yeah,
That's probably going to be an issue.
Well, Judy and Peter will have views on that too. We just don't know yet.
It could come quite late in the
It could come quite late in the piece. But from an accounting perspective, we would look to on charge if we're still doing the function. So it's probably not going to be dramatic in terms of the LTP. We just need to run them parallel and be aware of what's going on.
The costs and the budgets will sit in the water services strategy that sits with the CCO. It would just be a service delivery arrangement that council would send the bills out, because the system for for collecting the volumetric charge sits in council's system, and the ability or the wisdom around rushing that into the new CCO isn't there. You know, you'd probably just pay the council for the costs of employing the person who's doing that billing.
Yeah.
So it's not really going to affect the LTP as such. It's really at the resourcing level would stay in council to do that task.
So that's my second question. It would be transitional until.
Yeah, and it would be a payment, like they would say, well, we will pay council X dollars a year, and there'd be an arrangement for that to do this task for us.
The way we have to run it through our accounts, so from an accounting perspective, that would impact. But you're right, the bottom line wouldn't change because we will get that revenue back in. But the work behind the scenes, you know, obviously the sooner we would know that would be helpful. But
Also the broader question with some of the CCOs perhaps entering service level agreements with one of the councils for providing ongoing accounting services for the first year or two.
Yeah.
I don't know, again, that'll be something, Curtis, that I presume you're working through Julie, in terms of setup. Yeah.
There possibly will be things that currently sit in that corporate support function now that might not be in the CCO from day one, where they'd have a service. And I'm look off the top of my head, property management might be something that you have a service delivery arrangement and you pay back for those things. And it probably helps the council manage the stranded overhead cost a little bit too. So there is a benefit to those service level arrangements.
So it actually just says the wisdom, Curtis, on the bottom of page 11 there, the establishment of the water CCO. When I say it's a risk, what it is, it's, if you go back to the terminology, it's an uncertainty about how it will impact our LTP, which again, you know, if we reflect pressure on us, not the pressure that Yvonne might be feeling by when you're going to do our audit, is actually we've got to think this one through ourselves before we can even give something to the auditor. So it does just create that uncertainty. It could, we want to avoid it affecting our ability to get an LTP out. Thank you for Curtis. Good point. Any other questions, comments?
Sorry, just a minute.
Because you're trying to remember your notes, aren't you, Tracy, you poor person.
And after what Yvonne said in relation to the water service strategy, we're waiting on the Office of the Auditor General. Is any delay there? Is there going to be a flow on? There's going to be a flow on delay for us.
I think what I heard you say, Ron, I don't know whether I fully understood it entirely. The contexts are different around the place. I think what you're reflecting is, as an auditor, you want to reflect, does that water service strategy in some way affect how we prepare our LTP? Have I got that correct?
Yes, in the water service strategy will be a standalone strategy for the water CCO, and that per legislation is not required to be audited on a standalone audit, but it is part of the consolidation to the council long-term plan, and obviously it's part of the financial model with the CCO. The proportionally will be consolidated to the financial statement of the long-term plan. What we are waiting is the Taituara and the Office of Audit generally in the discussion with the long-term plan methodology and approach towards the water service strategy, how that fit into the long-term plan methodology, and we are expecting some clear guidance early part of next year. I don't think that will intervene or any impact on the preparation of the long-term plan for the council, and especially for the parent, all these policies and financial models, but it will impact on the consolidation and the implication of the audit scope for the long-term plan audit.
Okay, I think we should note that as an issue. I'm not, I mean, you will be absolutely technically correct, Yvonne. I'm just wondering why, because it's only the parent that we'd ever worry about in terms of LTP. Okay, let's take that one forward. I think that's actually a really interesting accounting equation on the table that you've down the track. Just help. I think personally, the oversight that's expected of the committee, Saskia, is good. I don't have any trouble with that, and I would hope that our members would do that. I think the fact we've got Yvonne here is I'd like to see a fifth audit point here is that the role of the committee is to manage the audit relationship. So I think we should just recognise that, at least on behalf of the council, we should be, goes back to my earlier comments, receiving, for instance, the audit arrangements, if we want to call it the audit plan, something these days for the LTP audit, including the fee. I think that's something that we've always done on behalf of all council. So I just add that as a fifth bullet point. I know we did this, we talked about this before. Paul, the financial strategy isn't mentioned in this table, and that worries me slightly.
Don't worry about it, Brendan.
Paul, I am absolutely assured.
We are treating.
To be honest, you know the debate we had, which is, do we lead with a financial strategy or is it the receiver or whatever decisions we budgets?
And that's a discussion we have yet to have with council as to their approach to how they want to see that. And that will be occurring in the new year, as we've got that programmed in as part of our LTP program of works. And I think, if I remember correctly, you did ask last time whether we see that as part of the LTP or whether we see it as a separate work stream. And at that time we said I consider it as part of the LTP. It won't be missed, and we have got it scheduled to be discussed separately, because I think there are a couple of approaches that council can take, and we have yet to explore that.
But okay, I would. Oh, sorry, Kim.
We have a strategy day, all day workshop coming up on Wednesday, and I anticipate that will be quite high up the list of topics.
It's got to be. If affordability is our second highest ranked strategic risk, I can tell you now your financial strategy's got to be there at the front.
I guess the financial strategy has to now reflect the government's rates capping. So I don't actually think potentially we're going to have a lot of option in terms of how we progress this forward. I think we've been told already. I think it's just the timeline, how we get to that point is the discussion.
And look, I know we're remembering the last conversation, but I will state it what it's worth. I agree with you that rates capping is a critical part of it, and we treat 4% as a target. We know we've got 4%. It's going to be challenging though, because I find it difficult, as I was a full elected member sitting around this table, thinking actually I have to take into account my own rates and the water bill. As I see under the water stuff, they talk when I was in the session last week, they're talking about, well, you know, if it's 2% of household income, etc., that's okay. Water bills. And I'm thinking, wait a sec, we always talk about local authorities being 5% max. So there is some big strategic thinking needed early around what is affordable. So, you know, if all of a sudden it's now, you know, if they're thinking 2 or 3, somebody set up to 5, if they take 5, we're, use a word I can't use in this room, you know, we're challenged. So I think all I want to say here, Saskia, is I'm going to write down in my notes. Paul says it's okay. But if I can just keep in front of you guys, particularly to do your diagram. Again, I think the point we made last time is your financial strategy is a really key entry point. I mean, not that it's cast an iron. You'll have to come back to it as you find out what the numbers look like and what does 2% or 4% look like in terms of your rates, yada, yada, yada. But I think something's needed there. Okay, look, the risk stuff, Saskia is absolutely correct. And we've got a separate section which we'll come back to under risk. Can I just note though that I think I wrote down 4 extra ones, which I think are worthwhile just noting in the public session here. So we've got establishing 3 waters, got it, audit pressures, got it. I think we have to note the impact of BAU, Peter. BAU has to continue. We have that expectation it will, no trouble at all. But I've also put down against that the 25-26 audited annual report. And its need to actually be right. The 4th one I had was I can't help but think this rating review. be a challenge. Okay, now you guys have already had the discussions with Stephen, that's fine. I'm just thinking of the time and the debate of it depends how ambitious you feel you have to be around this rating review. It could soak up a lot of time. So I'm talking time here. We are in a time position. I'm not, by the way, that is not running down the fact that you're doing it. I think I agree that there's good wisdom. I'm just concerned that actually when you add it on top of a normal LTP cycle, difficult cycle, it's going to be a challenge. So I think you need to keep an eye on that. Resourcing the project team, will come to that, that's good. And the impact of the reform. Paul, we already noted that with rates cap, regionals, whatever we want to run on. Okay, that's good. Any other comments, questions? That's fine, it's easy done. Can I note that the recommendation is that we receive the report. Taskia, do we need to send a polite note back saying that the committee acknowledges council's request and we agree to undertake the role?
We could put that.
Do we need to? Why don't we do that?
We don't need to, but we can.
Okay, well, I don't know. Let's not make work for ourselves because it's going to take me 5 minutes to work out the resolution.
Yeah, because contained within council's delegation is the delegation down to this committee to oversee it. Yeah. So I guess we would only go to council if the committee felt for some reason they couldn't oversee part of it, the big change.
I have added the audit relationship, but I think that's just like Paul, it's already within our existing delegations. So it's really just a note for you guys if you do your project planning that we need to be brought into the planning side. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, so we're just going to note that the report received. Do I have a
You want to put?
No, that's not.
To put those additional things
Well,
below.
I'm relaxed.
Report be received and notes the committee has oversight of the following, and we can copy and paste those 4 bullet points and add your. I
Okay.
think that'll keep it nice and tidy.
Do you have to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. If that's the case, then. Thank you for that, Tamar. So, sorry, the second one was that.
The report be received and it notes the committee agrees to oversight of the following.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah. The relationship with.
Including the relationship with the work. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Are you prepared to move that?
Yes.
And I'll second that. Great. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? It's carried. Yvonne, just thank you for being online. I note that actually one of the critical birthday presents you've given us is an unmodified audit report that will be adopted Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, not this
Wednesday week.
Yeah.
So thank you for your separate comms on that. To me, that's great. And it's good that we're able to get that out of the way before Christmas. I know it's a tad late, but I do appreciate the fact that we are getting it out of the way. So I just want to acknowledge you, and I take it it's my next work on that at this stage, and it'll be a great day on Wednesday when you adopt that. So thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
can we move on?
Thanks,
Can
Bruce.
we move on then, please, to the internal audit report? And Paul, I think we're going to read David and Kelvin on. I can see a green.
Look, Kelvin.
Hey, Kelvin, g'day, Kelvin. How are you? David's out. Okay, that's fine. Kelvin, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelvin, for being at the meeting. Great you're here. I suspect you're on the hard work rather than David, dare I say it. It's me being cheeky about an old colleague, David. You can tell him I said that too. I'll probably buy him a beer or something. Okay, folks, really good report. Believe it or not, we've noted this report already, Kelvin, in our workshop in terms of introducing the committee. So look, we look forward to, I think, Paul, you leading off and then you'll invite Kelvin to speak.
Thanks, Bruce. Take the report as read. There were, main point was that it confirmed what we've been thinking in the finance space anyway. And I think Deloitte did a really good job in undertaking the work and coming to the conclusions that they came to, which kind of also vindicates the conclusions that we've been talking about probably for the last 12 months. Given that we now have the report and there are some recommendations contained in that report, we'll take some time, given it's Christmas and we're just finishing delivering our annual report. We'll take some time to digest those and look at what we can and should be implementing. We will be coming back to this committee in February with a view on this is what we think we should be doing immediately. This is more longer term. And this is stuff that's beyond the capability, for argument's sake, of Magic System to provide. I've got some ideas already around what we can do. It needs a discussion with the IT space so that we can start pushing this stuff out. But all in all, I thought it was a really good, useful report that we'll be able to make some changes. And we already have started implementing some of those changes through the LTP process that we're undertaking at the moment.
Report, Kelvin, is there your report? Would you like to characterise any key points for us at this stage? It's a very clear report, but you may have some comments you'd like to make.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you everyone for your time. Yes, so we'd just like to mirror what has just been said. I'd say that you know, this report came at a specific request from senior management. They want to see improvements in financial planning across the organisation, which is really great. And David and I felt that we had great engagement with management and personnel across the council, and that they demonstrated a commitment to improvement. I would maybe point you to just page 2 on the report, where we outline management's good practices and also overall observation. So, you know, we noted that there is ongoing work already off the back of the past LTP process to uplift budget monitoring and uplift engagement between finance and the departments. I'd point you to page 3, where we discuss maturity levels. So we used a financial planning and analysis model to understand the level of maturity that CODC is at in this space. I wouldn't put too much stake into the fact that CODC is in developing. That's what would be expected for an organisation or a council of your size and scope and the complex work that is done. But it's also good news because it shows that there is room for continual improvement, and we expect that based on the recommendations we have made and based on what CODC will put into place in the upcoming year, that maturity level is going to be in a positive trajectory and it is going to go up. So the last point I'd make is that our recommendations span across the people, processing, technology triangle, if you'd like to think about it like that. So there's no one area which needs uplift. It's people, process and technology need to work hand in hand. So, you know, the success of uplifting maturity really depends on all 3 of those areas. But those are all the comments that I had at this stage.
Thank you, Kelvin. Very succinct. Folk, do we have questions for Kelvin or for? Take it on the bank. We'll get a roadmap in February. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. I would like. I mean, the point that I've just picked up from Kelvin is all three points need to be worked on in some way to lift the boat. I would be interested in that roadmap to think of, if we prioritise this, it will have this beneficial impact. Would be a good way to, I think, actually show it, so that we get a bit of some agreement that actually this gives us the best bang at the moment for our public. So I think that would be useful. Tracy, you got a question?
Yeah, I actually went back to the February 25 this year, sorry, meeting and had a look. So it was really good to see that something that we had addressed as being basically at risk, and where there was some, we knew that there was some possibility of some upskilling that was required. So we have actually followed that on. So thank you for that. I guess the big thing for me, a couple of comments, and one is that I'm really hoping that the community will see that, you know, this report is public. So we're trying to be very transparent where we have got things that we can work on, and also so essentially that we've got room for improvement, which is where we all should be heading. KPIs in around this, I guess that will be you, Paul. How are you going to monitor for us to essentially move from developing forward? How does that happen?
I I don't think that's actually, no, talks finance, that's a bigger project team, and the LTP project team, for argument's sake, if we use that as the project, have set the KPIs and the timelines to deliver that. So we will be reporting back on those things back to first the ELT and then here, because you're obviously now responsible for it. I guess the other things are the type of reporting that you're starting to get. You know, that should be seeing improvements as we go every time that we bring something to you. And what we would expect from the council is feedback as to whether that's useful or not. So those are the types of things that we'll see as we develop over the next 12 months. We would expect that it won't be the same as today. And we've already seen that through the ELT dashboarding. The ELT can sort of talk to this, but it's not the same dashboard as it was 6 months ago. There's more information in it. There's information around balanced budgets, Bruce, you'll be pleased to know. So all of those types of things we're starting to bring in. And I guess we've got no hard and fast KPIs, but we've got a satisfaction level, and what we're aiming for is to keep the council continually satisfied with what we're producing. We also have to bear in mind that this is linked to the next internal audit, which is around the capital spend and making sure that that's occurring in a timely manner. So once we've got that, we then get the complete picture from a financial side of it, and we can start adding, I guess it'll be developing over as we go through with all of those types of things. That covers your question.
Yeah, and also, sorry.
Can I just add to that, Tracy? One thing this committee could consider doing, we bit like what we're going to do with the procurement order, which you might recall, we had some improvement there. That's in year 3 of the current program, is to actually do a check-in. Is all the work actually shifted the dial in procurement? So this committee could decide when Paul and I bring the when we get to the cycle that we bring the program up, that you want to actually engage Deloitte to actually do something similar and just see where we are at. The other mechanism also is Te Korowai. So that would be, obviously it's measuring different things, but there was a financial element in Te Korowai. And as part of that program of work, again, when we're in years to come, we go back and do that assessment again with Te Korowai. That would be also another way to see if we've shifted the dial of finance.
What would be reasonable if we were thinking about engaging Deloitte in the future to see, like you say, the dial shifted? What would be a reasonable period of time to consider that there has been some improvement there? I don't know the answer. That's wrong.
Korowai was under the old, I don't know the new one, but when it was council mark, it was kind of a 3-yearly revisit in 3 years. And I think that 3 years initially is probably reasonable given what we're trying to change now. I mean, I don't think you would get as much benefit out of it if you engage Deloitte for this time next year. But I would suggest that part of the next internal audit program that we do, which I think we've got 3 years for this one, could be, well, we've had our initial 3 years. Part of the Deloitte's work is let's revisit what we found in the initial one and see how well you're going, so that you've kind of got a review part to it, and then what's the new topics that you might want to do for the internal audit. Something like that might be useful, but I don't think that let's have a review in 12 months time. We'll see some benefit, absolutely, and we may have shifted it to kind of either half in developing, half in intermediate, but we won't necessarily have seen all of the benefits that you'd expect to get to a mature position.
And sorry, just one more. Here I asked the question, have you got enough funding? Maybe this might go this way. Have you got enough funding to do the training and bits and pieces? Because that is essentially, if we're talking about affordability, but can we afford not to have the funding? to do that?
We'll have to have a look at that. I mean, we do have training budget set aside, and it's not tagged to anything per se. So we could tag it for part of us across budget matters as a means to upskill everyone. So, but if through this work we identified, look, actually we need a bit more of a dedicated training budget for this type of stuff, and we could work that into the LTP. But right now we do have training budget, so it's just what we put that to is a decision for us.
And just the overall management response, which is XYZ. I presume we'll see that at some point before that gets inserted into.
Yes, and I thought I'd gone back, but clearly I didn't. In my head I had. Essentially, Paul and I accepted, we talked to ELT about it. ELT had no further feedback. We accept the findings of this report and we think they're accurate and fair. So words to that effect. Sorry, I hadn't got back to you in my head. I had Calvin. That's essentially the management response, and that we'll have a plan to address it.
Just, but actually, just to follow up on, if I may, Mr. Chair, and about the budget, things about like the enterprise system, so Magic, those sorts of decisions, they are really big decisions. They are LTP discussions, but equally on the back of all this government reform, you probably, they might be an LTP discussion of the next one, the one after, because we just don't know the way we're going to go down as a region in 5 or 6 years' time, which will have an impact on.
Well, I'd be keen for a wee bit of ambition around some of these resolutions, the recommendations. To look on the dark side of this, because I think it's a very positive report, and I'm very appreciative of the way everybody's approached this positively. The downside is that we have got some dissonance within the organisation in terms of staff understanding their budgets and how to prepare them, manage them, and deliver them. And I'm just wondering what could be achieved between now and, say, September next year. Because we're doing budgeting right now, well, according to the plan, somewhere soon, we'll be doing budgeting. And if we aren't ambitious in trying to work on what are the relevant recommendations in here, we're going to repeat the same mistakes for this LTP. So I'm being a bit naughty here, but mate, as you do that roadmap, which you bring back in February, I hope this comes back to all the layers of the pressures that are on the BAU I talked about with the LTP. But if you think about it, if this represents, Calvin's work represents some of the challenges we have internally, we're going to repeat those if we don't try and correct them between now and, say, September next year.
I can answer that, Bruce. In terms of the 26 annual plan, we have just, we will actually be taking to council as a rough draft on the 17th. We've had a great deal of input from staff, budget holders throughout that period. So it's not, there will be something more they need to do for the LTP, because this LTP we're looking at starting from zero base. So we're not actually going to, we want people to start thinking about 10 years into the future, what they plan. In past LTPs. So I think that there has been already an improvement in the understanding of budgets from the point of view of doing the annual plan. And I have done a review of the budgets that we've received and just sent out some gentle reminders and there's things you want to think about type questions. And people have actually come back and said, no, I'm okay with this because of this, or actually I will change the budget to reflect the point you brought up. So people are starting to think really hard about what they're actually seeing and what they're actually producing. So I don't think we're starting from way back.
Yeah.
So we're moving, we're okay in that respect for the annual plan. So LTP is going to be different because we're going to clean it all out and say, here's your account, let's start from scratch type of thing.
Well, that's encouraging. And no, I'll take your word. Sorry, take your word. Wrong way to put it. I accept that. But if you're going zero based, then you approach the LTP differently. That will test it. So
Absolutely.
I will look at the new plan, the roadmap, with a wee bit of checking on how does this help us? Is it really going to help us with the LTP?
I'm pleased to hear that and what you said, Paul, because I think the government has made it really clear that from 2027, they want to see us aiming for that more to 4%. And we will not be able to achieve that if we're starting with last year's actuals as our basis, which is highlighted a number of times in that we are going to have to, as you say, start from the very bare minimum, what must we deliver, and then build on that as opposed to what have we delivered in the past, because we're not going to make that. And we still don't know what the growth component of that might look like from the government or any of that, but I know 2027 feels like a long time away, but it's not.
We are absolutely conscious that the number of days that we have left
Yeah.
before 2027.
Maybe like schools, you could count half days and then it'll feel like more. And
We're actually looking at, in terms of the time frame, is we actually only have 12 months because we need to have this delivered for audit pre-Christmas next year. Because if we don't, then that's going to impact. That's what we've set the timelines to deliver that. So there will be a lot of work, and I think there will be a lot of questions that the council will need to ask itself in terms of, for argument's sake, use of land sales. Are those now, and I think you brought it up at the last LTP when we talked about the financial strategy and our balanced budget, should we actually be using land sales to support balancing our budget? And how do we achieve what we need to achieve? And that might be taking the money and investing it and using the investment to offset rates, but keeping the capital intact. Those types of discussions the council hasn't had yet, and that will have an impact on A, our financial strategy, B, what we can deliver through the LTP, and C, whether it's 2 to 4 rates increase, but we've also got an extra 2% tucked up our sleeve because of interest or whatever. Those types of discussions haven't been had yet, but they need to be had before we can finalise an LTP.
Thank you, Paul, and it's interesting that we keep coming back to the LTP as well, which is a prior paper, but it just reflects the nature of it. So, hey, Paul, I think somebody said we wanted to be upfront with, was it you, Tracy? We wanted to be upfront here with the community about our position, and we've been prepared to show this. So, look, can I just say, firstly, well done to all three of you, Peter, Paul, Saskia, that we're prepared to do this. I think it actually really is smart and helpful. Kelvin, thank you for the clarity with which you have prepared your report, because it will help us certainly improve the benefit of our community. So that's really good. So with that, we actually only have the very simple thing that the report be received, but the action item noted, Saskia, is that we all have an item on the next agenda with the road, I call it roadmap, which you call it, you're going to call it. That'll be great. Do I have a person to move that we received? Thanks, Tracy. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Curtis. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Yeah. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Kelvin. Appreciate that, mate. All the best with the rest of your day. Policy and Strategy Register. Alex, welcome to the meeting. Great to see you again.
Yeah, it's my last formal meeting for the year, so this is exciting.
Last formal meeting for the year.
Sure.
You can change that.
So for Councillor Panner, I think everyone else is familiar with this one. The Policy and Strategy Register comes to every meeting. We're looking at how many of our policies are in date. We're not looking that we've got the right mix of policies. We do that once a year. I think that's next on the schedule for 5th of June. And then I report at each meeting how we're doing against what we need to have in place. We have a target of 90%. We have just narrowly missed that this time around. It was 87.75% at the time of writing the report. It's 89.8% as of this morning, and it will be 90.8% when protection of whistleblowers goes through in December. So we should be back on track before we know it. I've got 2 questions on the table at the moment. The first, at the last meeting, we talked about the sustainability strategy, which Clinton and I then took our plan to ELT in October, and have agreed for delivery alongside the LPP of the plan between Quinton and myself with the help of the combined regional climate officers group from offices across the country. So that one's on track, and because it's not like for like, I will take that off this register. The second is on what happens when policies are out of date, which does relate to the policies themselves, but specific to the protection of whistleblowers one. Section 29 of that policy is that we must have appropriate internal procedures in place that we follow. So just as a full backstop, that's the reason we have the very embarrassingly named policy in place. It has a clause in the back of it that it is considered standard practice for all Central Otago employees to continue to abide by the terms of a policy that has expired until it is either renewed or removed. And that's our backstop for policies such as that one. On others, it's act by act. Most acts give us up to 2 years.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. Both good questions, Alex. On a very clear. You know, I don't know. I love for some reason. I love reading this because I've got a few questions. Anybody? Shall I start off with them? And look, I obviously focus on the out of date. So thank you that you put them in red, different to the rest. And I understand. Thank you for the comments that you just made about what I've always assumed is policies, you know, still operate until they're replaced. The community leasing and licensing policy. Just remind me directly what that covers.
It covers the leasing of community facilities at the moment. So it is the way that we bill, which is a portion of the profit, the use of the facility. And that one is now back in place.
It's back in place. So in fact, it's not out of date anymore. Only reason I ask is that I had an eye to how do we maximise our revenue. Now, that doesn't mean to say we should skin lessees. What I'm trying to reflect is if the policy's out of date and it's not picking up what it could do, I would be keen to see it fixed. Because
that is the reason it lapsed, is they were trying to get that piece of work undertaken in time. They've determined that they won't, so it will be replaced with a policy that also includes commercial leases with that element in, and I believe that is now July next year.
Financial reserve, probably a similar question. Is that it?
Paul and asked you a question, I believe, at the last meeting that was to be programmed for review.
We haven't had a chance to look at that yet.
You know,
We've kind of done a bit of verbal discussion with the council, but we haven't.
Yeah, I get it. Protected disclosure, we're going to get ourselves to. I don't know why elected member allowances and reimbursement. I think that's going to do us, so that's fine. Staff delegations is out of date.
It is, yes.
You mentioned that also in terms of, I think your introduction. Is there any particular problem at the moment with our staff delegations?
No, it's just under review by Amelia at the moment. I believe she's.
So it's that sort of more standard update review. It was more a case of I didn't want the risk of either expenditure particularly being approved at too low a level or at too high a level. It all gets a bit crazy if it's not at the right level.
It's my understanding, but Saskia's taken her glasses off like she's.
Oh, sorry.
What we are doing with delegations, quite a number of years ago, about 6 years ago, the staff delegations were split out from the register of delegations, which is the council delegations, and it was never run by a lawyer. So we're going to implement some software that Amelia's talked to this committee about for local delegations. So as part of that process, we're doing a thorough check that everything is right.
Yeah.
So just to give the committee assurance, it's taken us a wee bit longer than ideally would hoped, but we are working through that. And we've got Duncan helping us with all the, there's particularly around RMA Reserves Acts, there's real requirements there, and we're just making sure we've got it absolutely right.
Yeah.
And the idea with that local delegations is when we have a new staff member start, that they can just type in their job title and it comes up with all the delegations and what they're allowed to do. Both the signing stuff and also financial delegations. So an updated timeframe that we thought we might be done with that, Amelia?
We're looking at right at the end of the year.
I mean, even just a matter of form, it's good that we've got our delegations policy up to date, even though I like the sort of the usability factor that may be also impacting yet. Sign off on that too, mate. It looks like your hand was up.
Yes, there's it.
Okay,
Yes,
go
we'll
for
go.
it.
I'll
I
check
got
one
any
and
questions,
then
don't worry, but that's all fine.
the roading policy, for something as critical as roading in our district especially, are we confident that we'll be able to prioritise or resource this into the future so that we don't end up in that well overdue, so that we can be across it a bit more quickly?
I believe when this review is done, the next one will be a lot easier. So a lot of this review process has been stripping out what does and doesn't need to be in which document. And they are about 3/4 of the way through that now. Once the review is complete, the ongoing reviews will be easy. I'm a little worried we might miss the end of Q1 for that review, but I'm confident we'll have it by the end of Q2 next year.
And I get it was a complete overhaul. It should not take 3 years.
One is our current problem child. I watch the dates on them. So that's the one that I show up about once a fortnight and say, where are we at?
I just want to thank you. You totally anticipated my question, Tamo, was that roading policy. Does it affect our levels, our anticipated levels of service?
Not at the moment.
Not at this stage. Okay. Good.
Right.
So there's obviously that policy is going to come to council and audit and risk around some potential changes in there. So we're taking the opportunity to review some of the level of service pieces as part of that, alongside that unsealed road strategy as well. And alongside that, there are things in the policy currently. So council fund Autoseal or EcoSeal within 100 metres of a house and different things like that. We have people building houses within 100 metres of a gravel road, and is it appropriate for them to do that and then expect council to fund those sorts of things? So we're looking at opportunities around where we're funding things at the moment that is maybe not as appropriate to continue funding in different things. So there is opportunity to look at some savings through some of the provisions in our policy, which we're taking opportunity to do given the environment we're in from a financial perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's right, my last answer.
That only reflected the, sorry to be, I'm not harping on about this now, that it puts pressure on our LTP. So because we should ideally, A, we want this through. B, your point, QP, is really good, is actually fees and charges are outside of the rates capping regime. And this is an area we can, I should be careful, it sounds like a gouger of the ratepayer, but quite frankly, this is an area we can, take outside our rate capping net.
And delivery of that policy is critical to some of the decision making that we'll make through the term plan. So we are very much working to a Q1 because we'll be having conversations with council around the long-term plan, level of service, and the challenges we have with funding roading, probably March, April. So we need that to be here, or at least presented to council by then, to enable those conversations to happen concurrently.
Good. Music to my ears. It might be serious. Just remind me, Alex, I've asked you this question before. Sorry, and I should know the answer. When a bylaw is out of date, is it enforceable?
It is not.
So the water supply bylaw being out of date is a problem. Right?
They actually have just, we're working with Gore District, they're preparing one, and we're trying to get something up to council in the new year.
Brilliant. Does it involve dollars? I mean, sorry, it involves dollars developing the bylaw, but is it's actually enforcement of water related issues? I'm trying to think what might be. It's illegal connections and backflow. So it's actually about what is the responsibility of the owner and yada yada yada.
It's more around clarifications of where council service starts and ends, and the process for getting new connections put on the network and old connections changed. If someone does something that shouldn't occur, we don't have the ability to take enforcement. To be honest, you don't really want to be relying on your bylaw to be ambulance at the bottom of the cliff there. It's more around getting some clear policy on how we do approach things and then educating contractors.
Brilliant. Okay, it just stood out for me as being a slight concern that you're right, it might be ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, but sometimes the fact that ambulance exists is not a bad thing for people to see because they understand it.
I think that risk at the moment is around if the staff, when you've got staff changes and many staff coming on board, it's not clear council's position is on these things.
Yep. Brilliant. Yes, Tracy.
Just a quick question, and I may have asked this before, Alex. Why do we do the cumulative number of,
Looking for how far out of date things are slipping to make sure they're not reaching 4,000 days out of date like we have there, aiming for under 1,000. So we're 4 times we always want to be, but that's a new target we've put in to work towards as opposed to one we used to meet are slipping on.
Right, like we've got to recommend you. So thank you, Alex, for that. Again, good transparency. We know we're not here. The report we received is contents noted. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Sarah. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, it's carried. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. It's really good. Okay, but we're carrying on with that. Protected disclosure. Amelia, are you taking us through this, are you? Brilliant. Thank you. Conscious of my time, I suspect I am. A little bit. Okay, thank you, Tamar. Just keep me up to the mark, guys. Thank you, Amelia.
So the protected disclosures policy has been updated. It's a very minor update because this policy aligns with the Protected Disclosures Act from 2022. So there's very minimal change to policy. We've just added in a couple of extra definitions just to align more with the Act so that people can be clear on who can be a disclosure and what a protected disclosure actually is, and just done some general tidying. So nothing has changed the intent of this policy. So very simple update this time round.
Brilliant, and thank you for showing everything in red. Do we have any questions or comments for this, Timmy?
I just had one quick question. Work being undertaken to develop a reporting solution to enable complete anonymity. Will that be some sort of online portal type thing?
Exactly that, yes. So working with the IS team, because right now, to be completely anonymous, you'd either have to write a letter or make an anonymous phone call, maybe change your voice, I don't know. Or go directly to the ombudsman. But we do want to encourage people to bring any issues to the organisation prior to going to the ombudsman so that we can investigate appropriately. So yeah, an online solution will give us that opportunity for people to easily remain anonymous.
I must confess at a personal level, partly because of other groups I meet with, I was interested a number of times the word phrase chair of the Audit Risk Committee were mentioned this policy, Amelia, but there we go, it goes with the territory. One of the other things which interests me, and I don't want to, have we QA'd this with a lawyer? Is it Duncan, our in-house lawyer?
We have.
Who I suggest that you do? I mean, I don't want to stop, but I would have thought that we would have had a lawyer check this one out. This is making certain that we are consistent with a dedicated act called, as you know, the protected disclosure. Raise the question here is that I think the definition of word or phrase protected disclosure, that's straight out of the Act.
Yes.
And it says under A, believes on reasonable grounds there is or has been a serious wrongdoing, which, by the way, in a protected disclosure, I have seen a disclosure critiqued about the on reasonable grounds because the investigator felt as if that person could have taken other steps before they made the complaint. So I think it's actually a legal test. So it interests me when I look at protections, and it says under the first bullet point, an employee who reports serious wrongdoing can claim protection. So it's not automatic that you have protection, but to meet a condition or two, which is that they believe the information they are reporting is true or have reasonable grounds. Is that straight out of the Act?
Yes. So yeah, that aligns with.
It seems slightly different to the definition of a protected disclosure that I just read out in the prior page.
I think. Oh yes, that's true. I think there is an element of the Act that does suggest that they need to believe the information is true as well, but I can double check and make sure that that does align.
Just I think it goes back to this point, this definition on reasonable grounds, because actually the information, believe information they're reporting is true, or have reasonable grounds to speak. Now, it's bringing a double definition on there, and I don't know. Can you just get that one checked out? I mean, I just need to hold up the policy, but I just want to get a bit of consistency. Because one is considerably weaker than the other in terms of a test. And it's really important because what you say, as we discussed with your question, anonymity is at the core of this. can I say, in the most protected disclosures I've overseen, it's very hard to pursue a protected disclosure investigation without raising plaintiffs' name. Brilliant. So we just leave it at, as I say, I don't think we need to deal further. You can check with Duncan as to whether I'm barking up a tree room rather than accountant with the lawyer. So that we receive the, we recommend council adopts the updated protected disclosure. Can I just put subject to in-house legal sign off, please? Just yeah. Worst comes to worst, and Duncan said, no, it's got to change. Well, I'd expect to come back here, but otherwise I don't see any reasons to need to do so if we can keep that efficient. That's my movement, and I'm going to move it. Thanks so much. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. Thanks, Amelia. That's really good. We'll catch you later. Health and safety, Anita. Brilliant. And Louise, well done. Thank you. Thank you for a very clear and comprehensive report. I got again more questions, but that's all good.
That's all good. Right. Morning, everyone. I take everyone's reviewed and received the report. Main focus for this was July to September. So we did the quarterly risk reviews for the staff with the focus on critical risk being occupational violence and aggressive behaviour. Which is quite timely, and then some of our continuous improvements that came out of that, the key areas, just to enhance some of the BWare training and reporting, using the awareness and ensuring contractor reporting is also consistent in BWare. And also we are looking at further de-escalation training and incorporating that also into our online Almo HR learning module as well. So we're just discussing how we can cement that a little bit more into the organisation also. Yeah. Any questions with the rest of the report?
Thank you. Any questions from that? A really good report. I love, can I say, I love the demonstration of employees, public and contractors. I thought it was useful to get the three headings because it is relevant to consider all of those. And the other thing, if I can just use as an open comment, I'm glad none of these, I mean, they're all important. Equally, it just reflects the complexity and diverse nature of the council and what we have to all cover, which was interesting. So do we have questions or comments? Yes, Tina.
Worried about the increase in aggression to our building control officers and the implications if we have to start sending everybody to jobs and how much additional cost that will add. Is there anything further that could be coming in place for those particular individuals around protecting them while on the job?
We are looking at, there's a couple of things with the system and also with the unreasonable complaint obviously we have as well, but we have had discussions about whether we can highlight that in the system also, so it's easier for staff to identify if the property is more of a security risk. So having discussions with IS on that last week. Question always comes in around, we look at cameras and stuff as well, which, you know, can aggravate people. We are looking more training, but yeah, it is that question of whether some of them may need, I suppose, potentially whether we do need to look at doing 2 per site. Stack out. So kind of just reviewing at the moment with the GIS system, whether we can incorporate that so they can easily identify it, and then we can monitor that with going through the system with people entering that in as it happens as well as into BWare, so we can have more of a review on what's happening with each property.
And I think it's important that this goes back on the sector because this is a user pay system. If we have to send 2 people because you cannot be trusted to behave like an adult when you are requiring a service from us, then you will pay for 2 people. And that needs to be clear to the public. If we cannot trust you to behave and we have to send more, you will pay for more. That should not be a cost that the average Joe ratepayer has to subsidise because some people are not behaving as they should be.
Yeah.
So whether that's something that we put out to the sector, to make it clear, because some of that they can be policing on themselves as well. They know who the sector knows who the problem people are.
And I think it's a 2-pronged approach from us as well as deep diving a little bit more with building control and seeing what that actually looks like, Tamer.
Yeah.
And I also think that making sure that we are providing the right training for building so they know actually properly how to handle those situations. And I know that we've got that training in place, but I think deep dive and then understanding if there's more training we need to have, and then coming into the unreasonable customer policy and just having a look at that and seeing where that can actually help as well.
So and I know we signed off on, did that come last week, the new system to improve our processes so that we are delivering the service that people expect. But we also have an expectation around behaviour for those people receiving the service.
Yeah, for sure. But we also have an expectation around the behaviours of our teams.
Yeah.
Same token.
It's a chargeable, but for inspections, you could add that in though, couldn't you? I mean, it's a job charge for certain inspections fairly easily, yeah?
Absolutely.
I'll be concerned about the strain on resources if you've, like, I don't disagree at all about sending 2 people, but if it's 2 building control officers, when from memory you're already under strain in that department, the use of resource.
Yeah, and look, given that it is a minority out there, then that's amping up and putting additional resource. You can do that for the exception. You just can't do it for the norm.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It'd be good to understand and yeah, so to deep dive into it and start getting that picture of who's actually, if there are any repeat ones and stuff, then we can see that coming through with them as well, and then it's easier to manage. It's the ones that don't get, like that recent one was actually not the property owner, and other of someone on the property. So it's sort of sometimes a little bit hard to gauge as well, but we can get that data in and that feedback, then all helps.
I think the good thing is they're reporting it. So the more that they report it, the more we're going to understand what we're dealing with.
Tracy.
So when I look at that table 2.5.1 employee injuries, non-treatment injury, does that include the aggressive behaviour?
No, that's just injuries like
actual injuries. Yeah. So where do you, I know I see it in the graph, the 4 in the above. How do we compare, like if we look at that reporting period, which is really clear where we can see non-treatment, first aid, etc. Is there a way that we can add a column to say aggressive or we don't need to know like down to which department, but it would be in the, to actually indicate so we can actually see what the
trend is.
The trend is, that's where I was going.
Yeah, no, I can definitely look at that for future reporting.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's black and white.
Yeah. And then you can see clearly where it is.
And if, I don't know whether it comes at certain times of the year as worse. I don't know the answer to that. So, not that it's acceptable at any stage, but yeah. Thank you.
Peter, I was just wondering, unfortunately a driver that's had to call on my insurer, including third party during the year. What do you have to do to get a 2-star rating?
That's a good point.
I might get 1 star the road I drive at the moment, but anyway, keep going.
With the E-roads, like it does take into account any harsh braking, obviously speeding stuff. And I have noticed even with them to overtake another vehicle, it does notify of that. So that's all included. There's no sort of stand down periods. So it will be a combination of harsh braking and at a high level glance. Yeah, there's just 2 of them that are sort of in that list.
You should have, that's good. I don't want to start rating on my car at the moment. You might be unhappy you parked near me today. No, it wasn't in the car park, unfortunately. I just actually noted with the building control officers, that may be as much working with the building. I don't know if it's the builder or the owner that was aggressive. But maybe as much working with the building fraternity as it is individual owners, possibly. Hey, one other final question was, just in terms of the EAP, thank you for the wellbeing stuff. That's always important to get it on this anonymous basis, and the analysis is really good. But I just want to check on the paragraph on page 33. It says communication emerged as the most common concern, with issues including negative comments and social media impacting staff wellbeing. Is that, could be a combination, but is that social media comments from community, or is that staff on staff?
No, that's from the community. So a lot of the one back there that was relating to, I think the pools had quite a bit of a social media, Facebook, and people were just making, you know, a lot of comments on there, and it had quite a significant impact on the staff with their well-being and taking things on board.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is from the public.
Oh, that's interesting. No, no, it doesn't make it better, but I was particularly worried if it was staff on staff, which would be, I've seen councillor on councillor, which is pretty devastating as well, but staff on staff would be as devastating. I know we're trying to find different ways of grading it, which I shouldn't, but anyway, okay, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Tamer?
The incident at the library, those people been trespassed from our facility?
Oh, I don't believe they have. It was a one-off thing that the team leader stepped in and spoke to them as well, and managing it. Yeah.
Be good to have a really close eye kept on that. Pet peeve of mine.
Yep. I said, Your Worship.
Thank you. And then the second thing, do we have, as we head into the school holidays, I wonder if it is worth some comms going out around the supervision requirements for our facilities at pools and libraries, and how old your child needs to be there on their own. Maybe not as a, hey, we're not your free babysitter, but just a reminder for if people are going to be under the pump over the holidays of who can look after their kids and not be paying $200 a day or,
We had one go out when the pools opened a couple of weeks ago, but it got a little bit diluted with the celebration of the pools going out. So the team are pulling that one back around the boy again. So
I feel like you could make it quite fun.
Yeah.
Over who can be a supervisor and who can't be, but just something, lighthearted, but just a reminder, hey, you can't just drop your kids off at 8 in the morning and pick them up at 5.
Make sure there's plenty of puns when we dive into that one.
That'd be brilliant.
David,
That would be brilliant.
Two. Oh, I'm going to cut down. Let's stop this conversation right now. Yeah, we need to go. We're about to do a deep dive later on anyway. Tracy, you have a question, please.
Maybe just a comment, and it might lead into potentially a workshop in the future that you're talking about, Bruce, in relation to not acceptable risk, but risk that you can reasonably anticipate, and just obviously a dog bite to the animal control. I'm not saying that is acceptable, but it is probably, if you're going to be in that role, it is quite highly likely. So have we got it? I guess the big thing would be if we end up with somebody having an injury, which is quite a possibility if you're dealing with a dodgy dog, do we have a backup? That going to, depending on the injury, that could be quite a long loss of time. If so,
All right.
do we have a backup person
now? Right. Not sure how that sits with Cougar.
So obviously we contract our dog control. They sit with our office, but they it's undertaken by our contractor. And for instances of weekends and different things when the individual's not working, they provide another individual, as well as if they're on leave as well, we get another place to monitor that. It might not be the same level of service in terms of an FTE equivalent, looking after that and the parking piece, but we do have the support of that wider team and ensuring that we do have availability.
Thank you. Appreciate that. The recommendation is that we receive notice contents. So say again, as always, thanks to our staff for a very good and clear report. We'll move on to second. Thank you, Tamar. Thank you, Tracy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, Gary. Thank you. We've got 5 minutes to get through 4 items. Equal Treasury report, Paul. Is that you?
That is indeed.
Let's say Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris, what do we reckon?
I think we're going to take the report as read. As we've gone through with our borrowing program, we've had a minor, or as the author wrote, a minuscule policy breach.
Saw that.
But that's been corrected, and we may end up with those as we go through. But once we know that they're there, we definitely get them sorted out. So we did borrow the extra 10, and then got swaps around that fixed the breach. So
Okay. So the critical thing is, if we look at it, is to go to the policy compliance statement on page 79, the bottom left-hand quadrant. Says that we're all compliant with our Treasury policies. Other than that, no. And as you say, if I go over the page to 80, it's described as a municipal policy. Key point is you're fixed. Okay, any questions or comments on this? Okay, so we're going to actually move that the report be received. And I don't think we need to make anything about this says the breach, but I take on board your point that actually it's been fixed. So and you say that in your paper. So I think we can do it. So I'm going to move the chair that we received over second, please. Thank you, Timo. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, it's carried. Wayne, into status report. You have got what here? The review of the draft annual report. I think we already discussed that with Yvonne today. Paul, have we got any sort of closure documents or anything from Yvonne, the audit opinion?
The only document we've got so far is the one that we sent out to you. I think the rest of the committee got
me.
Should have, but if not, we will.
Okay, my fault. I will have it. Sorry, Paul, but could you just resend it? Just because I'd just like to see that. Sorry, because I know you're doing your work on. Oh, okay. Oh, we'll deal with that. Okay, I've gone all over the place. Yeah. Look, if you could just resend it, that'd be fine. I just would like to check it before you guys. I mean, I've got an email from Yvonne saying it's all tickety boo now. Finally. And
so in terms of that, they've changed the way they do things. We get that report up front.
That's right. Yeah, that's good.
And then we get a more detailed management report. And we'll get that in the new year. So what I've said to Yvonne today is that once we've adopted the annual report, then we'll put some comments around into that report, send it back. So pre-Christmas, they can work on it. They probably won't get anything back to us till after Christmas because it's Yvonne's last day in the office today before she heads away on leave. So we have the letter of representation that's been signed and sent back. So we are expecting the signed audit opinion at some stage today or tomorrow. The annual report, they're going through and making sure, checking grammatical stuff from an audit perspective. We don't anticipate any issues in the adoption. There's very few changes between what the committee looked at and council looked at pre-election and what we've got now. So
interesting they give you the opinion now when it's still 10 days to go.
Oh,
I would have you've got a compliant audit for you, mate.
Yeah, well, look, it's a little brave new world, Bruce.
I'm an old-fashioned auditor, but there we go. Okay, cool. That's no worries. I've got to set it. I can just set it. That'll be great. Sorry, Paul. You probably have sent it to me, and I know what's in it in the bit, but I just would like to say that for the purposes of being chair, I've seen it. It should be fine. Just as a wee bit of a commitment, rather than actually take much time over at Wayne. I'd like to just perhaps have a short call and work with you just on that forward work program for next year, because I think we're obviously we've got to the end of this year, which is fine. But I'd just like us to think a wee bit about what the forward program would talk Tracy about a workshop, which I agree. I would look to try and get some of those into the plan so that we can get that one right. So if you leave that with me, that'd be great. He says confidently knowing he's got zero time. Right, December, so we can move this report now that it be received. I will second it, please, Tamar. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carry. You can see that I tried to flip 2 pages. I do have, and I did ask Saskia and Wayne to bring up essentially most of the things I want to talk about in PX, but look, sufficient to say it's around regional council reform, it's around rates cap, it's around the reform of the management of the Resource Management Act tomorrow, and even indeed, Julie, just noting that I think Te Mata Arawai have come out with change standards around wastewater schemes, and I'll be just able to chat about that, but I'm going to leave that till the later bit. So with that, I'm going to ask somebody, can somebody move that you received? Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Sarah. All those in favour, please say aye. You guys, anything on your plate at this stage that we won't bring up under that good title?
Just all the things that are on your plate, sir.
Great. Okay, so can I move then that we note that your report has been received? Can I have a second? Thanks, Curtis. All those in favour, please say aye. It's agreed. Thank you. That gets me to the date of the next meeting, which is changing. Sorry, people. This is the Bruce Robertsonism called. I didn't listen to my wife.
We don't mind changing.
I shouldn't say that in public, should I? I shouldn't say that in public. She'd probably want it in public to know that I'd have. I am at a family wedding on that day. So, look, can I just say we'll circulate. I've given some suggested dates, but Wayne will come back to us with a date as close to the 30th as possible, if that's okay. Before we take a short break, I just wonder if we could pass the resolution to move into public. We've got 4 items: bad debts, risk management, litigation. As I said, just a short discussion on the reform. I think there are all good reason to be in PX. I'm going to move to those, please. Thank you, Tracy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? It's carried. Oh, you giving us, mate, 5 minutes? 5 minutes. Why don't we take a 5-minute break?